Hello and welcome back to the channel, and thank you for joining me in one of my occasional interviews. I'm not doing as many as I used to do, but when I do them, they're very important, of course. And today, nothing could be more important than the food you put in your mouth and those people who grow them. And are they going to be there in the future? Well, of course they are. And one man to make sure that that is going to happen is, of course, Mark, the bowler hat farmer, Byford. And he is here to join me. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Mr. Richard Vobes, good afternoon to you, sir. A pleasure as ever.
A pleasure as ever. It's always good to see you. Now, you have been travelling the country up and down the highways, the byways, and the thoroughfares, perhaps on the bridle paths and the footpaths, who knows, bringing your message, fork the system, and the importance of farming and food. So we haven't spoken for a while, although we have been turning up at certain events, but certainly not on the channel. And I know, of course, you've got your YouTube channel and people will be following there. And if they're not, they ought to be. And we'll leave a link in the description. But tell us what you've been up to and what's going on and what important messages you have for the nation.
Well, Richard, thank you. What an introduction. Okay, so back in February, I came up with this mad idea that I was going to do a tour.
Yeah.
And started putting out their message that we were going to do a tour, and we did the first talks in February for the Great Resist. But when I set off, most of my talks last year were all about, no farmers, no food, was all about the destruction of the farming. And, whilst all of that is still 100% in play, and while all of that is 100% still going on, the thing what's come out of this, Richard, is I have changed very much my talk since we left home. Now, the reason that's happened is because we have travelled, Gloria and I, my partner, we've travelled the country now. We've been from Land's End up to Hadrian's Wall. We're going back to next week to Cornwall to start again, and we go right up to John O'Groats at that point. And we're going to stay up in Caithness. Now, the thing I've seen, Richard, as we're traveling around the country is the amount of farmers that are doing amazing new projects. Lots of farmers have given up the ghost. They've gone, it's time for me to get out of farming. It's time for me to, I'm old. No one wants the farm. I want it, but nobody else wants it, apparently. And what we need to do is to get the farmers that do understand, get their message out, how they're doing things, and to get the public to see that there is hope, that there is farmers out there making the most amazing changes in their business, coming away from chemical farming, coming away from GMO seed, coming away from all the chemicals, the fertilizers, the pesticides, everything, and starting to look at a more sustainable. And I don't just mean that as a catchword,
No.
actually looking at it from a proper point where the public can get involved in building something that is going to produce food in the future. So exciting times ahead.
Absolutely. And I mean, the way I've always looked at this is that this has been an experiment from, I don't know, the last 150 years. And it's an experiment which I think humanity in lots of areas has had to go through to understand who and what we are. And we've come to that point where we go, do you know what? This modernization of tilling up the soil, of poisoning it with fertilizer, of monoculture, of killing off all the wildlife, of making the fields massive, has been a disaster, and that we should never do that again. But we've had to come to that point, to that realization, because like most things, unless you do things, you don't really know, even though perhaps people were shouting at them over the last 50, 60 years saying, I'm not sure this is a good idea. And now it's down to us to say to these big corporations who are the ones who are making the money, actually, if you want to eat real food, or if you want to eat food, it's not synthetic nonsense you want to produce over there. It's actually, going back where we left off before you started this madcap scheme.
Yeah, I think, Richard, we've got to take farming back almost 100 years to when the big farmer and, the big agricultural company started taking over and started pushing farmers in a direction what they couldn't argue, because they farms heavily rely on investment, and that investment generally comes from the banks. And the banks have been encouraged to give them that investment on the back of the grounds that they do particular things. And big agriculture has been the way forward. Now, most of the people that we've seen, Richard, as we've travelled the country, whether it was down in Land's End, we were down in Truro, we saw some amazing projects down there from organic farming. and sustainability farming as well, where farmers are taking cattle, grazing cattle, got chickens running behind them to chew the grass and get the bugs out of the manure and everything else. These things are out there. The public are blind to what's out there, and that's the problem. And that's what hopefully the tours are, been doing. Is we've now spoken in front of 11,000 people. We've had the opportunity, and that's without all the millions what we must have spoken to on interviews like yourself, Richard. And the thing what's coming out of this is people are waiting to see who's going to stand up and be counted. And that's why I seem to think on a lot of things what are going on at the minute. Lots of people talk a good talk and they all say, yeah, oh, I want to get involved. But then the minute you want to talk to them about being involved, they go, oh, it's not for me. Unfortunately, I'm a great believer in no one's coming to rescue us, Richard. This is down to us. But this is down to all of us collectively. Those of us who have got a voice, those of us who have got the knowledge, those of us who have got the financial side to be able to assist, whatever that needs to look like, we've all got to come together and actually pull this shit show from where it is and put some sort of systemization into a new system, especially on the food side. For me, the most fundamental thing on this planet is to eat and drink.
Yes.
And if we can't do either of those, then we're in trouble. So, I think that's where, from my side now that I've done 4 months of the tour, we're going until the end of September. We head off to John O'Groats again within the next week after Derbyshire and things. Then we go all the way up to John O'Groats, Land's End to John O'Groats, and everywhere in between, Wales and everywhere else. And the excitement from farmers. Richard, when I left home originally in February, farmers were telling me I was crazy. I'd got no idea what I was talking about. Now they're ringing me saying, can you come and interview us on the farm? That says to me that we're making an impact. Now, every room we've been to, Gloria has kindly taken a picture, and we've made a point of saying, who wants to buy chemical-free food? You've been on the front row when we've done it. Every hand goes up. Now let's get the chemical-free food growing. Let's support the local organic farmers. Let's support the new people coming into the system. And that's really, why we've set up the CIC. So the CIC...
Just tell us what CIC stands for again.
So we've set up a community interest company. So it's a not-for-profit. So quite simply, any funds what come into it, and I'll tell you how different ways we're achieving that. So the profit is going to go to set up separate things. A lot of that is going to go into setting up community farms. For me, that is the way forward in producing a really good quality food. Get the community involved in growing their own food. On from that, we've got to have good soil. We've been blessed by the fact while we've been on this tour to meet a compost company who are making compost now to my own spec. We've been blessed to meet a company called the Mad Company, and they are properly mad as well. I've got to tell you this one, Richard, because I got invited to do an interview on a maggot farm.
Lovely.
And I said to the guy, slippery critters, I said, look, I've got to just tell you before I come and do the interview that I've been very outspoken about putting protein into the food supply chain via maggots and creepy crawlies. And he said, good for you. He said, let me tell you what we're doing. He said, when we originally got our funding, that was the plan. But we soon realised that, we've got, for every pound we produce in protein, we produce £10 of value in compost. He said, so it was a no-brainer for us. What we needed to do was be in the position that straight away that we were in that, and starting to look at the proper financials. So they're now making this compost, which is bloody fantastic stuff. It's called frass, right? So it's all the manure from the little creepy crawly wormy things, the maggots, and then they cook the maggots before they turn into flies and bake them, crush them and grind them up, and it's brilliant. Now, the reason I say...
Are you telling me that you burn and crush the workforce?
Well, I'll tell you why it's so good, Richard, is because one of the things which I found out on this journey of, discovery, let's just say, about the maggot side was that it gives this thing called chitin or chitin, depending on what people know it as. And that is very bad for us. However, if you feed it to plants, it makes the plants bigger, greener, stronger. So instead of an aphid being able to come along and go yum, 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 and the plant's gone, they can't bite it. It gives it a coaty protection. So it gives it the chitin, it gives it the vitamins and minerals for the soil. This is just brilliant. So as we're starting to travel around the country, and these companies are now starting to sort of sponsor us and get involved a bit more in what we're doing. They're giving us donations of, to be able to test this stuff. And what we're seeing is that the plants responding in good quality soil, nutritional soil, what actually has a chance to give something back is where we need to be. And unfortunately, I think over the course of years, farmers have forgot how to farm, Richard, and that's a big aspect.
So is that? I mean, with the maggots and this sort of technology that you're talking about, is that sort of old technology that people used to do, and so hence you would create these vegetables or plants that had the natural repellent of the predators because it had thicker skin, was stronger, more able to defeat. Whereas we've weakened the plants with the modern fertilizer and chemicals and stuff.
It's been deliberately done, Richard, because we all know if you've got sick plants, you can. It's a bit like sick people. Then you can sell them something to make the plant better.
Yeah, of
It
course.
doesn't resolve the problem. It might kill the aphids, you know. It might kill the people. Well, you're not really worried. There'll be another customer along tomorrow.
Yes, that's right. The
So,
knock-on effect.
so I think what's coming out of this for me certainly is as of travelling around the country, and we've Eco Green Compost have been great. They've been sending us compost out to trial. Mad have been sending us stuff. All these companies are starting to understand that there has to be a new way to farm, and I think with what we experienced when we were on the farm before, last year, was if you've got really good quality soil, nutritional soil, you can build on that and build nutrition. Now, nutrition's the point, Richard, what we've got to come to in food, because nutrition is what feeds the body, and that nutrition is what stops making people ill. So, and another thing I've got to tell you about is I was blown away. I was down at Glastonbury doing a talk the other week down at Crops Not Shops, and there was a guy there got talking to him, and he's designed a piece of kit what you can put a piece of fruit or veg into, and you can test the nutritional value of it.
Wow.
These guys have got 1 million farmers out in India trialing this stuff at the moment. Now, for me, that's just mind blowing, because the minute you've got a system where you can grow good quality food, prove it's good quality food, and then give it to people and stop them needing pharmaceuticals, you're on a winner.
Absolutely. And well, I suppose if you can compare that with food that you buy in the supermarket, and you look at the score on that, or that's 2 for its nutritional value, and then your homegrown or your local farmer, whatever, and it's 8, 9, 10. It's like, well, I know where I'm going to get my nutrition.
Absolutely. And when people say to me, "Oh, I can't afford to shop in farm shops," you can't afford not to. It's as simple as that. If you want to be alive in another 10 years' time, you need to be eating some really good quality food. And, on that note, we know the food and farming side's been slaughtered to bits over the past 5 years. The next 5 years won't change. The onslaught will just go on. Food quality is going to get worse, and we have to stop that. And that's only going to come through people like myself that are setting up organisations, working with farmers, especially a lot of small growers. I've had a call from a guy this morning who runs a tree planting organisation to see how he could get involved in supplying us with fruit trees that farms could apply for. Everyone wants to plant trees because we've got to get rid of carbon. Well, if that's true, I don't think it is, but if it is true, then let's plant the right trees. Let's plant fruit trees, nut trees, blackberries and things. Let's plant the right stuff. Unfortunately, we've been driven down a road, Richard, that is taking us to a suicide mission.
You mentioned there about the price of food. I mean, one of the things that strikes me is that, of course, people have got so used to food being extremely cheap, almost disposable. And that's why we see so much wastage going on in the supermarket chains. Buy one, get 17 free. And you think, well, I can just not eat this. And in the end, you're just used to tipping it away. And when you go back those 100 years to people, how they used to eat, I mean, they used every part of an animal and nothing was wasted. And then you would pickle and you'd preserve for the lean times of the year. And the cost of food was very much part of your weekly spend, and it was a very important part. It wasn't just that, oh yeah, and we'll just get some food, as if a big colour television or a big flash car, all that sort of merchandise has become the thing that we keep spending our money on, and useless insurance policies and all those sort of things, instead of appreciating the value of food and that health for the future that it brings you.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, Richard, you say about the monetary value, because unfortunately, I think in the last few years, we've been ground and ground and ground as farmers. We've been ground down to accept the price. And the farmers I'm going to see now are either fighting back against that by going, do you know what, sod you, we're not going to supply you with anything anymore. And those farmers are stepping out of that system. They're producing a really good quality food now, starting to come away from the chemicals, starting to sell stuff either at their farm shop, their farm gate, the neighbour's farm shop, wherever that might be, selling it into box schemes. See, for me, there's several things we've got to look at, Richard. Yes, we've got to look at growing better quality food, without a doubt. We've also got to look at new supply chains. You know, if people say to me, "Oh, well, how are you going to live without supermarkets, Mark?" Man's been on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years, and we've only had supermarkets the last 100 years. And there was big cities before, and the food turned up just the same as it would do if the supermarkets weren't there. So let's get away from that nonsense.
Well, I mean, in the old days, I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were, what, in their 70s, and they said, well, the butcher's van used to come down and deliver, the bread van used to come, the boy on his bike would go and deliver the bread. The milk, obviously, we all remember milk rounds. Well, some of us of a certain age do. Those things came to us. We went out. Admittedly, there was a woman at home, mostly. That's not me being sexist, but, you know, the little lady was at home looking after the house, which is a job in and of itself. And the guy used to, I mean, now we've got this absurdity that both parents or both couples have to go to work in order just to stay above water. And hence the supermarket becomes the easy route to food. So we have done it before and we can do it again. What we're lacking, and this is what I wanted to ask you, is we're lacking all those small farms and the producers that used to be surrounding the towns and the villages. And you mentioned box schemes and farm shops. And I know when you were with your Uncle Ray, you had set up that wonderful little farm shop at the end of the lane there. In your travelling then, have you seen more of that, farmers taking it on their own, taking back the responsibility and putting up little farm shops, bigger farm shops, and supporting some of the existing shops?
Yeah, a lot, and a lot more, Richard, I have to say. Certainly more in certain parts of the country.
Right.
East Anglia is quite poor, I have to say, which saddens me because that's where I'm from.
Is that because it's mostly
I think
big farms growing
big
monoculture?
and you know it's monocropping and that, you know,
Yeah.
down that road. But certainly down the West Country, lots of farm shops, lots of small places on the side of the road selling stuff. Lots of box schemes going on there, lots of organic farming going on. Same certainly, you know, we noticed in the Midlands, lots of organic milk, lots of raw milk about. And certainly people talk about when we get above the Scottish border, there'll be a lot more because it's still a lot of small crops. Now, what I see, Richard, is that, and this is one of the things we want to be able to do with the CIC. So fundraise to either buy land or to be able to rent land, to be able to start community projects on community farms. Lots of big farmers are looking at land and going, oh my God, if that only earns me £160 an acre per year, then what's the point? I might as well not grow anything, or I might as well take the red pill or the blue pill to, you know, to take the whichever.
Solar panels and various other things.
Yeah. So what we're seeing now is that farmers are going, okay, well, if a group of people got together, Richard, let's say collectively, you and I and a few other like-minded people got together and said, well, listen, we'll all chuck in £500 a year and we'll see how many acres we can rent. And we go to a farmer and say, listen, we've got an ability to spend £3,000 a year on 5 acres. And the farmer says, right, £600 a year, that's all right. When you start looking at what you can earn per acre, you can earn £30,000 to £40,000 an acre growing organic veg if the soil is good. That's the important bit. Now, if you spin that along and say to people, oh, we're going to lose all, because people say to me, Richard, oh my God, you know, Mark, we're going to lose all the farmland over the course of the next few years through building and solar and, you know, farmers selling up and farmers not growing. We are, that's true. However, at the minute, we grow 80% of the stuff we grow, we don't need to grow. Why do we want to grow oilseed rape? Why do we want to grow sugar beet? Why do we want to grow wheat? You know, or in the abundance we do. We don't. We don't. It's as simple as that. What we need to do is grow good quality nutritional food, fruit, veg, meat, dairy. They're the things we need. And if farmers go back to the basics, the people will support them. I say we've spoken in front of 11,000 people, 11,000 hands up. And whilst I appreciate that's only a small percentage of the people out there, Richard, you and I both know, we've spoken on social media. We know the response from people. We know people are desperate to buy that quality food. They just want to know where to get it. And that's the bit what I'm hoping between the CIC through donations and funding, that we can get that money to put that together, and then to start looking at the supply chain, because the supply chain, again, same thing, the girls from Organity are doing some great work. The guys from the Good Food Project are doing some great work. There's some brilliant projects out there. We just need to bring it to the forefront and tell people what's out there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, one of the things that obviously is going to be tricky is the whole convenience part, because that's where they've managed to score the, I was going to call them the unthinking, but the people who are not thinking about their food and the healthy of it. They've just got so used to going to the supermarket because that's become the norm. So I'm not trying to be rude about them by saying they're unthinking, but they've been bulldozed, if you like, brainwashed to thinking that's the only route. And of course, they've made it convenient because they have big car parks. It's all under one roof, and etc. So breaking that spell, and so that the more options they've got, so that on the way to the supermarket, they actually pass a farm shop. The other thing I was going to say is, when Julia and I go around the country a little bit to give the talks and things, we always look for a farm shop so that we can get our food. We don't go to anywhere else. And it's surprising how many farm shops feel, and I don't know what you think about this, they always feel like they've got to look a bit like Waitrose or the upmarket. They're always very clean and to a point that you think, and every now and again we go into a really old-fashioned, back of beyond farm shop, which it's not trying to appease the sort of rich middle class type people. It's just ordinary everyday people where you buy your vegetables, they come out the ground, they do need washing, they've got the dirt on them, and to me that's what a good old farm shop is, because it's come out the ground nearby, and it's not trying to pretend to be a supermarket.
No, and I think that's crucial, Richard. People want to go backwards to go forwards. We have been stopping down in Somerset, near Somerton, and there's a beautiful little farm shop down there, a village called, I think it's called Pitney, and that's just as you've explained. They've got a bit of grocery, they've got freezers full of their own meat, they've got dairy from the local, from another local farm where they make all their butter, their milk, and their the cheeses and so forth. And they've got all the fruit and veg which is grown on site. It's a proper little, and they've got a little cafe there. It's lovely. Now, whenever we go there, there's 4 or 5 people queued to get in there. And it's only, I know, talk about supermarkets, there are thousands of people, but these places are starting to build up a momentum. People are starting to understand there is another way forward. And the thing is, Richard, price comes with the momentum. If these farmers can get more momentum, they can bring the prices down. And you've got to remember that supermarket prices are not real to start with. They're being funded and backed by the government on every level possible, whether that's on the government paying for the pension schemes because their people are on 0 contracted hours and the farmer would have to pay someone a proper pension. Whatever that is, they're subsidised in some way, shape or form to keep their price down. So what people have got to see is the real price of food. Now, also, Richard, what I'd say is if you go into a supermarket, and it's a long time since I've been into one, I have to say, but if you go into a supermarket, what do? You walk along the end of the aisles where all the special offers are, you pick up all the shit you don't really need, and you end up spending £100 instead of £50. And people say, "Oh, I couldn't afford," but did you need all that crap you bought?
Yeah.
And this is the problem. We've been played with, manipulated, lied to, cheated. To believe we need all this stuff. I must have the next iPhone. I must have. Just come back into a little bit of reality, I think, is what we need.
Absolutely. Well, when you think they've been doing that, 5 a day, and you've got to have this and you've got to have that, and making you feel that actually you need all those things, and then you buy all the sweets and all the other crap that goes with it, the crisps and the things, and because you're not putting the nutrients in and the vitamins in, your body goes, I get shot of this as quickly as possible. Now give me some food. And so you're constantly hungry. But if you eat real food, and this is what people don't seem to sort of get, that actually if you eat real food, you don't feel hungry. So you're not actually consuming as much.
Absolutely. And that is one of the things that I think is important on it with this the kind of, for me, Richard, the missing link in all of of my thoughts and feelings on, you know, good quality soil, good seed, natural fertilizer, natural compost. How do you prove that? And when I got talking to this guy and he said we've got this means of testing nutritional value, that blew my head, because that's the missing link in all of this, to be able to genuinely prove to someone. So there is some exciting times ahead, without a doubt. And I think with the CIC, and now we've got that set up, Richard, because we've spent some time putting that together. We're now starting to put the directors on place. We've still got space for some more directors to come on board. If anyone's got, you know, the knowledge, the foresight, the vision to come on board, let me know. Bowlerhatfarmer.com, obviously, people can contact me through that. We've been getting donations in, Richard. We've been really blessed the last few weeks to have some donations starting to come in. And that's one, again, people can make a kind donation at bowlerhatfarmer.com. But we're also now starting to look for commercial sponsors. So what I will say on the commercial sponsors are, they're going to have to fit with my criteria, because I've already been offered funding from two places that I've refused, because I looked into where their funding comes from, and our old boy Billy is in there somewhere, and his mate George. They're always in the back there somewhere. So I've turned down funding already, and I'd really like to make this more about the public support, because I think what's going to come out of this, Richard, is that the public want solutions. And the public need to find those solutions. We've got the solutions, we've got the answers, we've got the knowledge is out there. I'd love people who have got great amount of knowledge to come to the table and say, look, I could educate you in this. You spoke a minute ago about preserving food. That's one of the things I'd love to do in the future, is to be able to teach people, you know, in commercial kitchens across the country, via people like my mum who know how to make jams, preserves, pickles, to teach people how to do that again, because I think we're going to need it, Richard.
No, I absolutely agree. We're going to need it, especially if you know, the powers that be, as they lose their power, which I believe they are going to be losing their power. But in that last throes, they're going to throw everything at us, whether they're controlling the weather or whatever. And you know, so we're going to need some of those old wartime skills that we used to have about surviving and coping.
Richard, we had bombs raining down on our heads and we still did dig for victory. That speaks volumes about the British mentality. Yes, there's plenty of challenges in the country at the minute, and people will say, oh my God, you know, you're so far removed. No, let's get back to basics.
Yeah.
People need to get these in the soil. They need to get the hands dirty again and start to think about the next step forward. The only way we're going to resolve all this nonsense is 100% changing it from the ground up.
So talking about changing things from the ground up, I wanted to ask you about seeds, because we know that there's a lot of seeds out there that have been manipulated so that the plants themselves, I mean, in the old days, you just collect some of those plants, put them aside, get the seeds, let them go to seed, and then you've got your next crop. Yeah. But we know that some of a large, well, this is what I've been told, a large quantity of the seeds that you can buy, you grow that one crop, but you cannot use the seeds thereafter because they've been manipulated. So we do need good quality seed banks from some of those older varieties, don't we?
Absolutely. And there's two things on that, Richard. One, if people have got heritage seeds and they'd like to donate some to the CIC, they can do that. Again, on the bowlerhatfarmer.com, the address is on there where to send them to. And two, we're actually in talks with a company at the moment what produces large amounts of heritage seeds to pack our own range of seeds, because they only do them in bulk for farms, and we're talking to a lot of people who want to buy them for their allotment, their garden, you know, small holdings. So we'll be able to do them in small packets, and that's one of the things I'm hoping that as we roll forward we'll be able to do to help fund the CIC. Because I think, you know, with the best will in the world, we need to get some cash together to get it off the ground. But once we're up and rolling, you can't keep going to people begging all the time. We've got to get sustainable projects in place that give us things to sell. So, you know, for us, yes, have our own farms where food's produced. Yes, have our own seed banks where we can sell the seeds. Merchandise is something we've obviously got. One of the things I have done, Richard, because obviously as you've known me for some while now, the Bowler Hat Farmer now, as the brand, as to speak, has now got about 80,000 followers. It's now launching its own range of compost. So what I'm going to do is put that all into the CIC, so that the brand will belong to the CIC. So any merchandise from that goes into the CIC. The other thing, which we obviously built earlier this year, Richard, which we spoke about 6 months ago, was the foodfindershub.org, which is
Yes.
the Food Finders Hub is then somewhere where farmers can advertise themselves and what they do, and the public can find them, because finding farm shops can sometimes be a nightmare. So what we're doing, and that's again been one of the things on the tour, was to find out where all these farm shops are. People tip us off about where to find them. We go find them. We tell them about the website. That's increasing. And I think as we start to put this whole new spectrum together, that's where the farmers are. The consumers who want to find them will find them. Yes, there's box schemes on there. Yes, there's farm gates on there. Yes, there's this on there. And I say, bring along to the table the good quality soil, which we're now working on. And Richard, so many people have contacted me that are making compost fertilizers, and different things that are natural and want to be involved in a new system. That excites me, because we're going down to Wales next week to look at another project, and it's just, the whole thing is just snowballing. And I think what's come out of the tour is, as more people are hearing about the tour and more people are starting to learn about what we're actually trying to achieve, they're bringing the information to the table and saying, look, I don't know if this is any good to you, but I met this person, we're doing this, we've grown that, whatever that might look like. So yeah, I think everything's starting to fall into place, at the same point as the old system is falling to bits.
Well, that's very encouraging. And as new people come along, of course, I think one thing that holds people back is because they're a little bit nervous. They haven't done anything, like new growers and what have you. And they want to think, well, great, okay, I've got a big back garden, or there's a farmer, I managed to buy a couple of acres, I want to do something. But their knowledge of growing, because it's been almost removed because everything's been done for you, I guess once you've got your CSE up and running and you've got some land, there could well be tuition for people,
100%.
courses for people to go on, just to get their confidence, so that they go, okay, I know when to plant it, how to plant it, when to harvest it, what to do with it, and then even ideas about how to sell it, because no doubt there'll be legal ramifications about what you do with food that you've produced and how you get round all of those things. Which, of course, the legal side of things will continually want to try and stop you from acting independently.
The press, yes. Interesting. I did a talk with Andrew and Francesco from the Electroculture the other day, down in Somerset, and they were installing a system down there, and I was there talking about the compost, and we had about 20 people there, which were all then involved in making the compost how I suggested, and bringing in the mad and the fertilizers and different things. And as a result of that, loads of people went home ranting about it on the internet. Oh, Mark, you must, tell us how to do this. And as a result of that, the compost company came to us and said, we love the mix you've put together. Could we manufacture that on mass for you? One thing, Richard, I am looking for, and if any of the viewers out there can help on this, I want to get a website put together, which is a basic content website and with a shop facility on it. That isn't something I know about. If someone wants me to grow vegetables, I'm the man. But I could really do with some help on that side. If someone's listening and has the ability to do that, that would be a great help.
Well, I'm sure there's lots of people who watch who are a bit IT savvy and can certainly help there. So if you are listening, get in touch with Mark, the Bowler Hat Farmer. Absolutely. We need to spread that word.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on, Richard, at the moment. And yesterday I spent nearly all day trying to achieve one thing, which was frustrating me. And we set up Patreon about 18 months ago, when we very first set up the CIC, and it's got $600 in, and I've been trying to work out how to get it out. And I just
They ought to be sending it to you monthly. I mean, that's a bit bizarre, because I mean, I have a Patreon, and I really don't use it very much. People do join, and then they just send me the money, and I put a notice on mine saying I don't put any content in here. That's just a way for some people to be able to support the show, and links in the description, by the way. But they ought to be sending you that to whatever your bank is. whether it's PayPal or an ordinary
Well, I kind of
street bank.
thought that I'd done everything, and then they sent me a letter saying that no, we can't accept your certificate of corporation setup, and I was like, well, that's from the government. It's not from me. I haven't made it up. It's
That's
not on, it's a corporation. It's set up. The CIC was set up by the government,
yeah.
and tried to send that to them, but they're not having it at the minute. So I've had to write to them today just to have a little bit of frustration.
So if anybody knows out there how to get those $600, I mean, it's not a lot of money, but my goodness, it could do some good.
This is
And
it. I think, Richard, the problem is that a lot of these organisations, and we're not just talking about the monetary side of things, big organisations as a whole get away with so much because they hide behind websites, they hide
yeah,
behind the nonsense. And we need to get things back to, Richard, I want to talk to you, or I have a problem with you, so I come and talk to you. We need to get the community back together. And I think the 2020 slyness was a big ploy on getting rid of communities. And people talk about 15-minute cities. If they want to think about communities, that's when they're going to realise what a community really doesn't want to look like.
absolutely. And I mean, the irony is that the 15-minute city it could be such a good thing.
Yes.
If you had everything within 50, you had a farm that was producing good quality food, you didn't have surveillance and you didn't have
Yeah,
5G and all
absolutely.
those sort of things, it could be an amazing thing and people would be part of that community. Only their version is not that. And
No.
that's what people kind of got to realize. So you've got another 6 months. What's going to happen? Because I know at the moment you're sort of so busy with this, you don't necessarily have a base at the moment for yourself because your dear old Ray, who was an absolute gem of a man, unfortunately passed away. With all those wonderful old farm equipments, all that heritage that was in his realm has disappeared. What's your plans at the end of this? I know you've had lots of offers and things.
We have, and I think the offers will keep coming. To be honest, Richard,
Good,
um,
good.
we are going to Lincolnshire on Monday to visit the compost company to see about an option up there. We're heading up to Scotland to see about two possible options up there, and we've been offered somewhere in Cornwall as well. Cornwall floats my boat because it's warmer, but I don't know. Richard, I've really missed not growing this year. That's been a big part of my life for years. And so for me now, I kind of feeling that I need to get my hands back in the soil, which is why I've was quite happy the other day to do the talks and show people on the how to make the compost, how to do the planting and things. And I think what's going to come out of this, wherever we end up, like you said, we're going to end up somewhere on a farm where we can educate people, have people come there to do educational talks. I definitely think that we're on the road till the end of September. We've been offered a chance to go to Ireland this week to do 5 dates as well. And I think what's probably going to come out of this more than anything is when we're finished, when we're set up, that next year there's going to be another tour, the Solutions Tour. And what I would like to do is find a commercial kitchen on a trailer where we can take a commercial kitchen out and kind of almost have like a burger van, not a burger van, but that style of thing where we can show people what's doing, show people what food they can grow, produce, what they can do with it, what's seasonal, what's local.
Well, you've hit a big nail on the head. I mean, not only are people not terribly confident generally, are not growers that do this all the time, but a lot of people who are new to it and who say, yeah, I want to support this, I think it's absolutely right, and we can see the problem. Not only are they unconfident about growing, but a lot of people have forgotten how to cook. Taking raw ingredients, because it's all very well saying, oh, here's a load of beetroots, and they go, well, what do I do with them? Or here's a load of veg, whatever it is, and they will, well, what do I do with it? How do I cook it? Because they're so used to the supermarket, almost, it's ping food. You shove it in, you don't have to think. Well, now we do want to think, and we want to do the best for it. So a commercial kitchen not a commercial kitchen, but a fitted kitchen or whatever it is in your thing, demonstrating taking those raw ingredients that they've all been growing. Okay, what do we do with this?
Yeah, I mean, Richard, as we've travelled, we've come across some amazing, genuinely amazing people doing some amazing projects. And what would be lovely next year is to take a kitchen, rock up at their farm where they're producing whatever they're producing, whether that's meat, veg, whatever, and invite the public to come there and see what real food tastes like. And for the public to then get involved locally at what's going on, and for us as a CIC to be able to deliver that would be fantastic. There's someone, I'm sure there's someone sitting somewhere in a country that's got a fitted out trailer kitchen that they don't use anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the answers we know, all the answers are always out there.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
No,
Totally agree.
one of the things which we did, we sold T-shirts along the way, Richard, and of the Bowler Hat Farmer Fork the System tour, and I hadn't realised how popular they were going to be, and unfortunately, I didn't have the finances to restock because the money kept us going. So now I've got some more cash in the kitty. We've ordered another load. They're coming. They're going to arrive this week, ready to start the next part of the tour. So, and it's the merchandise side of things. People are really, really want to support this. Not just, they don't want to support me going out my big mouth talking. They want to support the cause, the idea, the concept.
Yes, of course.
Belief, you know.
So where do we get the forkless system bowler hats?
Well, do you know what's interesting? You may have seen I did a talk the other day in a new bowler hat.
Yeah.
And a lady came into a talk I was doing down in Lyndhurst, just down past yourself, and she said to me, she said, "Oh, Mark," she said, "please wear this new bowler hat tonight. That one's looking scruffy." So I not deterred by the fact I wore her bowler hat, and I put my great grandfather's one to one side, and took it in to get it repaired this week, and they can't repair it, so it's got to have a bit of mum TLC this coming week.
Oh, bless.
But yeah, there's so much, Richard, that we can do to raise funds. There's so much what we
Yes.
we just need the people to want to get behind this a little bit more than loads of people are, but lots more people, so that we can make sure there's food on the table, because that's what this is about. Putting good quality food on the table and making sure that if it all goes to tits, all the supermarket system crashes, we still have an availability of food.
And of course, it goes without saying that, if you're a podcaster or a YouTube creator and you need a great guest to talk about food, growing food, this, that, and the other, you're more than happy to get on there and take that message to their channel to share that and, bring that in.
Absolutely.
Which is what you do so well. As people are beginning to think about growing now, as we're in the summer, and people might be thinking about planting or planning for the future, what tips can you give them? What should we be growing at this time that is seasonal, typical, and all of that?
Get the brassicas in the ground now, because my thought, Richard, is that this winter is going to be very, very hard for food. I think this winter we'll see an outbreak of TB. Remarkably, will just happen. I think,
like these things do,
like they do. I think we're going to see bird flu have a big comeback this year. And I think we're going to see the food supply chain shrink considerably in the next year. My thought would be for people who have some space at home, get your brassicas in, get them in now. They've still got loads of time to catch up and be there for the winter. We can all grow stuff this time of year, Richard. You've got loads of salad, tomatoes, strawberries, everything's grown in the garden in abundance. That for me is the key bit. Get food in the ground.
Yeah.
And there is good seed companies up there, realseeds.co.uk, virtualseeds.co.uk, I think that one is as well. There's good seed companies out there that supply really good quality heritage seeds. There is an abundance of information which we're just trying to put together at the minute, and that's one of the things I want to do on the website. If someone's got time, knowledge, and and the kindness to do it, that we can put all this information on there and have almost like a directory of where to get all this stuff, because we know where it is out there.
Yeah.
And now people are asking us on a daily basis, Mark, where do I get this? Where do I find that? So let's give them the information, and let's get an online shop set up so people can buy it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if people are sort of incentivized to do it, and then they find they've got a source from here and here and here, and they go, "Oh, I don't know which is better." If we can just get your site up and running, and there's almost like a guide, you want to be, get these seeds in the ground now, plan for the next season ahead, so you're ready to get those in. Then people in their droves will find it's convenient to follow your advice rather than spending years trying to work it all out and experimenting. They can get on it, and that's so we need that IT man or woman
absolutely
to get that, and then you can funnel the information in, and that would be doing a huge service for humanity.
I had an interesting conversation yesterday, Richard, with a guy who does he does trees for farmers and things. And I was talking to him and I said, but why don't you do fruit trees? And he said the problem is the people who sponsor them won't sponsor no more than £1 a tree. Well, you don't get much for a tree for £1, so they get these little whips which they put in the ground, and 80% of them die. And I was thinking about that, and I think one of the things which we're going to set up, and I spoke to 5 farmers this morning that have all got small organic farms, and said to them, if we could find a solution to fund trees, fruit trees, nut trees, would you put them in? And they're all like, yeah, 100%, but we can't find anyone who supplies them. So I'm kind of looking at, the companies are being drawn at the moment to set aside carbon. And we could offer that as a solution via planting fruit trees and them sponsor the fruit trees on a monthly basis. And then we could get the trees, get them in the ground. And that could be for, a few pound a month, for the sake of a cup of coffee a month type thing. They could sponsor trees going in the ground that would give people food. And that to me is much more sensible, and it will capture carbon capture at the same time. That to me is an easy remedy for commercial companies that want to get involved in something, to be able to say, yeah, well, we could chuck £50 a month into that, as a sponsorship deal. And some farmer ends up with some lovely fruit trees there, which the fruit then gets harvested and sold to the public to keep the farm going. And so we've got to start collectively thinking differently.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. And I think we will. I mean, the impetus is obviously there. People want to do it. They need the information. They need the encouragement and the confidence. And, of course, they need somewhere to do it as well. And it does seem that this is the right time, that we've had that experiment. People like yourself are going out there, making this knowledge available and waking them up to what, if we don't do it, then things are going to be tough. But let's not let it be tough.
No, well, Richard, I've said right from the off, if the food supply chain is going to hit the ground, if it hits the ground, what happens? Absolute panic. If it hits the ground, what we need to do is when it hits the ground to keep it bouncing. That's what we need to do. So the food, what we grow, make, produce, supply out to people needs to be out there in abundance over the forthcoming year. And then as the challenges arise, that is overcome by the fact that a new group of people producing good quality food are out there doing the job. And that's already starting to come to play. I can't emphasize enough to people how many good projects we've seen across the UK. We went to visit, I've got to tell you this, Richard, we went to visit a guy called Chris, and he's up on the Newcastle Hadrian's Wall border, Baysleep Farm. They got 1,000 cattle they're milking, all organic.
Wow.
0.2 million litres a year they produce, and none of it goes to supermarkets.
That's amazing.
They've got the most brilliant flipping farm shop. They've set up their own butchery section, a big butchery section. They produce their own meat on site. Now starting to do the fruit and veg, all organic fruit and veg. And the next step is to start growing that on site. There is people out there doing brilliant projects. People need to start looking. Go out, find these places. Go to the foodfindershub.org and have a look, see what you can find. If you find someone that isn't on there, tell them about it. Tell us about them. Let's just get the knowledge out there for everyone to be, living a better lifestyle, a more healthy lifestyle.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I try to do, and I haven't done it for a while, is, in the area that I am in, down in the West Sussex, is to remind people that there are these raw milk suppliers, because raw milk, very good. And Charlie's Farm, I'll give them a call out, because every time I go into Charlie's Farm at Bury, they go, oh, more people have come in and they've asked for the raw milk because they've seen your show.
Yeah.
And I say, fantastic, where's my 10% discount? They said, no, well, we can't do that. But it's so good. And the more publicity that we can give to these people who are doing genuine farming, genuinely offering a healthy product, and the farm shop at Charlie's Farm Shop in Bury in West Sussex also has a butchery, and it's their own grass-fed beef. If you're in that area and you see that and you've heard it on a podcast, you've heard someone talk about it, go and support them. Tell them where you heard it from, because it shows that the message is coming out and it's not just a couple of people just, being do-gooders about it, that it actually there is a movement that
Very much a
making,
movement. It's
yeah,
interesting. We left Somerset the other day, and I said to Gloria, we were on the way home, and I said, not really in a hurry. Let's go via Oxford Way. So first off, we had to stop in at Dora's Dairies down at Swindon. We
excellent.
booked a
Yeah,
ticket
give them a
on
check.
and got a load loaded up with raw milk. Got the cool box all set up. And as we came home across country, we visited a farm shop. We visited just round the corner from John. We visited another place along the road, what was selling strawberries and cherries, all locally produced stuff. And it was just lovely. And by the time we got home, the van was loaded up. Mum, I've got you some strawberries, some cherries, some fresh milk, some raw milk, proper butter. And it was just lovely. And I think people have forgot what quality food now tastes like, Richard.
Well, and not only that, people. I mean, I mentioned this in my monologue this morning. A number of people are getting letters from their GP or from the hospital with horrific diagnoses, which may not or need not happen if they had changed their diet or do change their diet and start eating healthy food, because the body wants to keep itself healthy and will do that if you feed it the right stuff. And this is such an important message that people are forgetting, that they're having these sometimes what they're reading as terminal illnesses, which need not be, because they're just not feeding themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think we've had the conversation, Rich, in the past about me getting my dad off of statins, and that was a big thing because he was just wasting away. They were just draining his body completely. And when we was at Barbara O'Neill event, I spoke to Barbara about that particularly and said to her, just can't believe how bad the situation is with statins, and it's just how do you get rid of the requirement to need statins? She said, drink lots of full cream milk and eat lots of pork chops, which is exactly against what the NHS will tell you. So unfortunately, lies, manipulation, twists of the truth, taking 1% of the information and making that the biggest thing out there. It's all the tricks they've played, Richard. What we need to get back to is the truth.
Absolutely.
Good quality truth and good quality food. The good quality food, if you look back through the thousands of years man's been on the planet, millions, whatever, however long it is, then we know they were not eating the crap they have been in the last 100 years.
Absolutely.
And they got that far. And here we are, we're down to 100 years worth of this nonsense, and we're nearly extinct. People are dying left, right, and centre.
And if people can't see that before we ever had big pharma and big agricultural, we were much healthier. And now we've got that, and people are dying left, right, and centre thanks to these petrochemicals.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that that's the answer. Do you? I think that may be the clue that we have overlooked.
Yeah, and I think people are waking up to it, Richard. And I think what is great is that people are starting to put the dots together.
Yeah.
Whether that's chemtrails, drugs, poor food, whatever that needs to look like. Those dots are coming together. People are waking up. And I think as people wake up, they will become more and more incentivized to want to get involved in projects that produce, like community farms that produce good quality food.
And that in of itself, going out there and getting your hands into the ground and being in the outdoors with vitamin D all over you, is healthy, healthy exercise.
Get some oxygen in your lung.
Absolutely. Mark, it's been a joy to talk to you. I know you're going to be very busy. So we've got thebowlhatfarmer.co.uk. .com, beg your pardon. And then the Food Finders Hub is
.org.
.org.
Yeah.
There we go. I'll put the links in the description to make life really easy for everybody. But do go and support that. If you've got some spare change, send it over. The CIC desperately needs that money. The information is up there. If you're an IT guru or you can help with the information and get a web up going, if you can get me a spare voice, that would be handy. All those things. And you are part of the solution. Be part of the solution. Don't be the problem. And it would be fantastic.
Richard, thank you kindly for having me on yet again.
It's a pleasure, of course. We'll get you back soon.
Letting us continue on with our journey. And I'm sure along the journey over the course of now to the end of September, our paths will cross again.
Absolutely. No doubt they will. Mark, as ever, wonderful to have you. Look after that bowler hat. Get that mum treatment on it. We want it nice and shiny for the positive future for all of us.
Absolutely.
So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. The Bowler Hat Farmer there with wonderful news and a positive outlook. But it does mean all of us have got to get off our backsides and take part in lots and lots of different ways. Check out the websites, they'll be in the description. I will be back at some point with more interviews and, of course, the monologues. But until next time, thanks for watching. From Mark and I, goodbye.